Hello, and welcome to another edition of The One Thing. And today, my guest is a woman who I admire, who I have worked with, who I have been impressed to no end with her skills and abilities to work with an audience and group. I have Lauren Feehrer here today. And Lauren is a customer experience specialist. Do I have it right, Lauren?
Yes, that's correct. That's what I do. And thank you. Your words are very kind, and I feel the same about you, Seth.
So, for everybody watching, Lauren, I know your background, I know your story, but why don't you tell everybody a little bit about how you got here? Because you've got kind of a long route from consulting and doing a lot of really amazing big projects and getting to where you are now. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you ended up here.
Sure, happy to do so. So I started my career at a big consultancy. I was with Accenture for a number of years. Came out of a liberal arts education. I have a degree in journalism with just I'd say, curiosity about learning new things and investigating and wanting to understand and solve problems. And going to work at Accenture was actually the perfect opportunity to just see a lot of interesting companies around the world and travel and just have so many opportunities. And we were building software for the Fortune 500. So I worked in healthcare, in retail, technology, just doing really interesting stuff. Had a chance to open an office in Chennai, India. It definitely gave me a perspective on, that of the size of kind of where I fit into that bigger picture and just the world at large was really great. I went to work for a smaller firm called Alliance and spent 10 years there. We were building software again for large companies. And I remember the CEO pulled me aside one day and said, Lauren, I know you came from Accenture. You understand the value of client relationships. And I just want you to go meet with every customer we have and get their feedback, find out what we're doing and how we can do it better. And I was thrilled to actually kind of take that on and go visit every client. And it led me to start really realizing how important it is to just open up those conversations with clients, really take their feedback to heart, work with teams to make changes. And it got me into the world of customer experience. It started me on my way with voice of the customer programs and figuring out things like what's net promoter score. I didn't even know what it was when I went to my first conference. And so when we sold, which was about 2015, I had kind of that great epiphany and big career jump where I said, well, what am I going to do with my life next? And kind of realized that the thing that I enjoyed the most was helping companies really design for and think about how to create moments with customers that matter. And so I opened Loyalty Craft that year, and it's been quite a ride ever since. Continue to help companies really drive understanding of their customers, do that research really at a strategic level, though. It's not customer service, although that's a factor in it. It's really more about the end-to-end experience a customer has with the company.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute, end-to-end customer experience, because when I first met you, I was under the impression, I said, wow, I love what you're talking about, but doesn't usually marketing own that part of it, the customer experience? And you quite rightly corrected me in terms of your perspective on it.
Well, I think the whole company owns it. And that's what's sometimes challenging is that you really have to think of the matrix of an organization and sometimes the politics at play. The ownership really needs to come from the full top, right? The CEO has to be bought into the idea that the company is customer centric. Marketing is a piece of it, right? How do we form a perception? What is the brand promise? And how do we fulfill those promises? Well, that takes on a deeper life, right? That's not just what the marketing claims it to be, but it's also, everything from your first sales touch points all the way through to your product delivery. If it's a physical product and you have to make a return, that's part of your journey as well. To, the 800 number you're calling, or the chat line, or whatever it is that you're doing to interact with that company, all of it forms an experience.
Right. I had a client at one point who invested in having a receptionist always there to answer the phone. And this was, to your point, it was the CEO. He said, I want a human being to answer that
Mhm.
phone. Right. And if there's a problem or if they go to someone's voicemail and it bounces back, I want a human being to be able to usher that in. And he had no background in customer experience, but that was
Mhm.
his touch. He wanted that
Yeah.
personalized touch there.
hmm Yeah, I've been working with organizations where we talk about, the difference between buy-in and commitment to the point at which something is embedded in the organization. The particular organization I was visiting as a 106-year-old insurance company. And one thing that's embedded from, the original CEO is picking up the phone within 2 rings. And so, sure, they're committed and they're on their journey for customer experience and trying to learn these things. But I keep, I use that as a great example of like, well, that's something that you really like. It's just the heart and soul of the company. They hire for attitude and they pick up the phone in 2 rings. But how can you get the other parts of customer experience embedded? That's really what I like talking to folks about.
Nice. So, as is the title of our segment, when you distill it down, if there was just one thing that you can get your clients, your customers to do, one thing and one thing only, and maybe it's your reason for being, right? But what is your one thing that you're trying to get out there to the world and get your customers, clients to do?
I love that question, and happy to to respond with mine. And it won't be a surprise, even just based on what I've shared already. It's to be courageous enough to listen to understand, and to design for your customer.
Tell me about the courage to be able to listen. Talk to me about that a little bit.
I know when I work with clients, sometimes they say, "Oh, well, we're not really sure we want to send that survey right now." And I'd ask, "What's going on? Why not?" And it's like, "Well, we're afraid of what we might hear." And to me, there's nothing better. That's the school book of which you learn and you evolve your company is based on that feedback. And so many folks, I think, hesitate to go out and ask. They don't want to bother their customer, or they're afraid of what they might say, realizing that it's going to create change in their company. And so the courage has to come from that desire to truly want to make a difference, to be willing to take that journey with the customer and be willing to change.
Yeah, so it really isn't that they're scared of bothering their customer. They're,
Not usually.
yeah,
Usually it's they don't want another result, or if they're afraid they can't act on it. And I will say, sometimes companies will call me and say, can you build us a survey program? And I say, it depends. Not if, I think surveys are a friend of me. And unfortunately it's one way to get feedback, but it's not the only way. But the thing is, I will say it depends, because if they're not actually willing to take the steps to respond, I mean, that's exactly why we don't like taking surveys today, is because so many companies just, you never hear from them. You're like, hey, I just told you all this great stuff and you did nothing with it. So, I really don't want to work with a company that's not going to take the time and really focus on how do we make these improvements, and how do we follow up and close the loop with customers too.
right, right. Yeah, it's almost, as you said, almost not worth asking if you're intending to take that information and just kind of push it over here. Do
Yeah.
you do you often want to go to, so quantitative are your surveys, qualitative would be your one-on-one interviews, your focus groups. Do you really try to push your clients toward doing some level of qualitative
I
discussion?
do. Yeah. Yeah. I'd say one of my hero companies, you look at companies and the stories they tell, and one of them is Intuit. And they actually, their founder would actually follow someone home who had just purchased their product to learn what it was that they were doing. So much so that now that's a company, that's part of every person's kind of required part of their activities, is that they have to follow 2 people home per year. Luckily, it's not so stalkerish as that sounds, right? They find people that are friends of friends, and they say, "Hey, I want to watch you use TurboTax in your house," and they do. They go take interview notes. They're purely doing ethnographic research to learn what could be better about this experience. How are people using this? When are they using it? Do they stop? Like, how long does it take them? All those detailed questions they learn from thousands and thousands of kind of employee research with customers. And so I use that as a great example of just how powerful that can be, the impact that has of getting that research. So yes, I'm a huge proponent of going out, interviewing. There are so many great online collaboration tools nowadays too. You don't have to, pay for expensive focus groups. You can bring people together online. It's tremendously powerful and rich when you just go ask the question.
Earlier in my career, and now they call them store intercepts. They have a term for it now, but they didn't when I did it. I had a product line in Lowe's stores, and the big question was at Lowe's, whether Lowe's or Home Depot, right? Your ability to find a human being to help you is often limited. And so I to check the packaging to see if the packaging was actually working, I used to carry coupons and go up and talk to people. And my first line out of my mouth for the stalkers things, I said, "I'm not crazy. I I work for the company. I've got, I've got discount coupons or whatever I had with me. I'm just curious, is this packaging working for you? Is this actually helping you make your decision?
Mm.
And it's neat to see. I didn't know that they were actually going to people's houses and watching them use the software, because there's no other way to see. There's absolutely no other way, right?
Right, right. I mean, there are some tools you can use to kind of record eye tracking and exactly what things people are clicking on, but the value of the story behind the choices people are making, the why, is really what I find to be so fascinating and helpful too as a company's evolving their products and services.
Excellent. I love your thing about being courageous about going out there and being able to listen. I guess it's twofold, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
to be able to listen and then act on what they've told you, right?
Right, right. To act on what they've told you takes the other step, and you have to realize not everything you're learning is something that you're going to make changes or maybe not at all. You have to have the criteria to make the right decisions for your company. But the first step is finding out what they think, and what they feel, what moments actually matter as they experience it, and what are they trying to do. So I think so many times, we come in with this inside out approach versus saying, well, wait a minute, like what's the job to be done of the customer? What are they really trying to achieve? And is our product or service actually aiding in that? Or is it just slowing it down? And I think that's where um, you can see it in marketing messages too, right? The companies who really get the fact that the customer is the hero. They're not the hero. The customer is the hero, and you're on this journey where the customer's challenges, the things that they're trying to get done but struggling with, that's their villain. And so you really need to serve as that guide and help them on the journey. And like, do they want to be stuck with you on the journey? Well, you have to prove to them that you're valuable in that journey, but not just because, oh, I'm the best at blah, 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 or I have this blah, blah, blah service. Who cares? Right. But how can you help me as a customer be a hero?
I love that. I love that. I think a lot of brands forget that. I heard in one session, I heard one guy saying, he said, look, you have to understand that, as you said, you're the guy. They're the hero. You're the guy that makes it, you make the connections, but they are the hero of this story. And so often I see marketing materials and marketing messaging that really is around how cool we are as a company, right?
Right. Right.
Not how we're going to make you cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah. That might be my number two thing is the customer's your hero, not you. Maybe
So
my number two. But
take another moment with that, because I'd like to, because I really think not enough people get that. So when you say the customer is the hero and you are kind of a channel of that, just give me a little bit more information on that. Give me more stuff.
yeah. Well, I think we have to first, like I said, know the details of that person, right? Whether it be using personas or going out and doing the qualitative research to truly get to know who is this person, and what are the things that they're thinking about, and what are they acting on, what are their behaviors, what are their attitudes, right? How do they make decisions? Once you kind of get in their head like that,
Mhm.
then you can best serve them. But you really have to first acknowledge and be empathetic. And it's not just the customer experience team or the marketing team. Like, truly everyone has to learn and kind of work that muscle of becoming more empathetic towards the customer needs. If you can do that and put this person as your hero, then everything else follows. Then it's like, okay, let me understand them so I can make sure that I serve as the right mentor at the right time, that I'm bringing them the things they need when they're ready for it and when it's applicable to them, and giving them the tools they need to be most effective at it.
Right.
And that's why I like working on really tough industries, right? Purchasing a house, or going to a hospital, or trying to get insurance. Like, those aren't fun journeys. Like, not everybody says, like, get me a mortgage, right? Like,
Right.
especially in today's market. But that's why that's so interesting, is to say, okay, well, how can that company serve as a guide to something that maybe they don't do it every day, and or haven't been down that path, and so they're first time home buyers and they need help actually taking those steps. And so how do you provide them the right level of knowledge at the right time to get them on their way, hopefully, quickly. So
I like that. I have this image of that. You're basically saying, yeah, you have to figure out what their dragon is before you can help them slay it properly, right? Like, they need the long
I love
sword, but they
that.
need the
Yeah.
name.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We all describe our dragons a little differently too. And that's the thing. That's where I used to describe empathy as like walking in someone's shoes. And I really like Brene Brown. I think a lot of people do too. She just redefined empathy recently. And I love it. I actually I noted down her definition, which is that rather than walking in your shoes, I need to learn how to listen to your story that you tell about what it's like in your shoes and believe you, even when it doesn't match my experiences.
Right.
I think that's like, that was like an aha moment for me where I'm like, yes, like, because it's true. Like, I can't walk in the shoes of some of my customers. Like, I'm not a farmer, I'm not a forklift driver. Like, I have no idea, nor will I ever be able to know what it's like to walk in that person's shoes. I can only walk in my own shoes, but I can listen and be empathetic to their story and believe their story to be true, and then figure out how I can help them, you know? So I love that. Like, figure out how do they describe their dragon before before you can help them slay it. That's awesome. I'm stealing that from you, Seth.
Please do. Please do. It's just this great image of this guy kind of standing by the side with all these different weapons. Like, well, which one do you need, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep, for sure.
Thank you so much, Lauren. This was great having you on. I'm excited to share this with everybody. And as always, you always have really great stuff to talk about.
Thanks, Seth. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure. All right.